Sunday, August 27th, 2017, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. First of all, I'd like to say, give all the best and, to the people down in Texas. Houston looks like, a nightmare right now. The flooding that's going on there as a result of Hurricane Harvey. Also, the people further south where the hurricane hit. The flooding is supposed to keep going on for, the next few days, 4 or 5 days, or the raining. So it just puts things into perspective. We worry about markets, the price of gold and cryptocurrencies, but this puts things into perspective, in my opinion. But we need to keep going, and I've make a video today about. First of all, I'd like to talk about a story I saw in the FT and came out today. It says Wall Street's top bankers sell own group's shares as Trump rally reverses. So the FT is saying that, and it says executives and board members at the top 6 U.S. banks have been consistent sellers of their own bank's share this year, according to a Financial Times analysis of disclosures tracked by Bloomberg. And it says insiders at the big 6 banks buy assets: JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, and Morgan Stanley have in total sold a net of 9.32 million shares on the open market since the turn of the year. Even excluding Warren Buffett's big dumping of shares in Wells Fargo in April to avoid tripping over rules capping ownership by a non-bank, sales by insiders outnumber purchases about 14-1. And it goes on to say that, last year, I think around April or March time, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, bought 500,000 shares in JP Morgan, and that was a good time to buy. It showed that he had confidence in the banking sector. But this year there's no buying, not even by Jamie Dimon. It goes on to say here that the KBW, which I've covered in the past, it's a banks index, a grouping of 24 of the biggest Wall Street and regional banks, is only 3% higher so far this year. So, with Western economies, especially US, UK, being credit-driven economies, could this be a sign of a slowdown in the economy? The FT seem to link it to Trump and his policies. They say that when he came, he was elected in November, people expected higher interest rates, more deregulation, tax reform, and that hasn't happened. And so they're attributing this to the fact that people, these executives and board members are losing confidence in the Trump administration. I'm not so sure, trying to link it to Trump or what's happening in Congress. I think it's more cyclical than anything. Maybe consumers are getting up here with that. We've seen here in the UK, Provident Financial is in trouble. We also saw the other day another company, Carphone Warehouse. They sell mobile phones. I know they had a big profits warning that their shares tumbled. So maybe, people just are saturated with consumer debt and they're slowing down. So we'll have to see. But I thought it was an interesting article. And I'd like, am I saying that the stock market is going to correct after this and is going to collapse? Difficult to say, even though we are entering, the season of stock market crashes and corrections, September, October. The other thing I was thinking about, I wanted to look at, flooding insurance, because this is like, it was expected to rain in Houston, but this is a lot worse than expected. And Houston is according to the, I've got a live feed here, CBS News YouTube, and I've been listening a little bit to the reporters down in Houston and the commentators. Houston is the 4th biggest metropolitan area in the United States, and not only the area itself is, the square mileage is huge. It's not like New York City, which is concentrated a lot more. So I was thinking, what about flooding insurance? How is that going to affect, the financial markets? I know it might sound, as I said earlier, a little bit insensitive to talk about these things, but it's the way it is. So I looked into it, and I found a story in the Wall Street Journal that was published actually yesterday afternoon, before this flooding really got going in Houston. It says Hurricane Harvey threatens largest flood insurer, and you'd think, well, what company is that? Is that AIG? No, it's the U.S. government. So a federally underwritten program, already roughly $25 billion in debt from earlier storms, faces huge new claims. So apparently, according to this article, only a small percentage of flooding insurance is, privately backed, or privately supported. The rest is federally supported. So how could it affect financial markets? Well, with the U.S. Government and the Treasury debt ceiling, and the problem with the debt ceiling coming up, and this huge, they're already at $25 billion in deficit. This flood insurer, this could be huge. I don't have an idea how big the claims could be for the Houston flooding, but it could be big. For example, it says here, what makes the debate in Washington, D.C. so challenging is that the program already has a debt of roughly $25 billion from earlier weather disasters. Much of this is from Hurricane Katrina in 2005 and Superstorm Sandy in 2012. Sandy alone cost $84 billion initially, according to Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA. And it says here, in 30 Texas counties labeled disaster areas by the state's governor, there are nearly 450,000 NFIP policies covering $125.7 billion in insured value. And it says, according to the program's website, more than half of that value is in heavily populated Harris County, which includes Houston. So this is interesting, especially with the debt ceiling and the government shutdown thing coming up. It will be interesting to see how this affects, the Treasury debt. But I don't know. We'll have to see. So what else? Cryptocurrencies. Of course, they don't stop trading. So let's see where we are. LITECOIN is the big winner this Sunday, up 20% at 62.23. So LITECOIN doing very well. Bitcoin still above 4,340. Ethereum 336. And Steam is, last time I saw, it was doing fairly well. Let's have a look here. Steam 146. We got up to 162 earlier today. So Steam looks like it's starting to bounce back, from around the $1 to $1.20 range. It's doing fairly well of late. So that's it for now. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And I'll talk to you later. And good luck to everyone in Houston and that area in South Texas. with the flooding and the rains. Take care. Bye.